Hello and welcome, everyone.
Hey.
So glad you could join us. We already have 11 people watching. Wow, I appreciate you you guys joining us this morning. I'm really excited. James, I'm going to steal James's line and say this is the best day ever. I love Friday streams. These are so much fun.
This is the best day ever.
I popped it in the chat there, but no matter where you're watching from, I hope we can give you some really great advice today. I hope we can answer your questions. That's the number one reason we're here. Feel free to interrupt us anytime. As you can see from the title slide here, we are going to talk about our consumables and principally our wood products. But if you have any questions about lasers, ideal applications, any of our other consumables, feel free to jump in at any point. We're going to have the laser running in the background there, as you can see in the top of the screen there. I'll see if I can solo it out. We're going to be making some cool samples as we go along today using our different wood products. So, I mean, again, you know, this stream is for you guys. Definitely jump in, say hello, let us know where you're watching from. And, you know, with no further ado, I'm going to introduce some of the very talented people I have here with me. Johnny, so glad you could join us.
Hey,
Thomas
Johnny.
as well. Man, I can always count on you guys. Thanks so much for showing up. Cheryl, very happy you could come from Alberta. That's awesome. Brian, Kevin. Oh, I love doing these streams. Okay, first and foremost, to my camera, right, left. That guy, you see him. If you joined us for some of our previous streams, you guys very likely know these faces, but I still want to introduce them. James from BC. How are you, James?
I'm fantastic. Best day ever, as you said. I stole your line now.
That's what we're here for. I really appreciate, I mean, both you and Kelly being here, especially so early in the morning for, I think we might have lost Kelly, but I'll come back around. It's pretty early in the morning out in Vancouver. So
it's 8 o'clock. I mean, day's half over.
When you're still awake from last night, it's getting pretty late.
Yeah. That's true.
If you guys have any questions, if you're in the Vancouver or BC area, obviously you probably know James already from his very infamous, I think, is going to show one here at James in the Van video. We're hoping to have another one coming out really soon, actually.
One's in the can.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
If you're in the BC area, I mean, do not hesitate. We've got James's email there on screen. Reach out. We can do laser demos remotely or in special arrangements with social distancing and that sort of thing. We can do them, with an in-person demo. We can do them online, whatever's most convenient for you. So I hope you'll reach out if you're in the BC area. We've also got
Sorry, guys.
The bouncing mic.
okay. It's more exciting this way. You guys know Mike.
Action cam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's like I'm watching a Michael Bay, Mike Clark documentary.
better lighting.
Oh, you look good, man. You look good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm really glad you could join us.
Anytime you come on here and you start saying hi to everybody, it sort of reminds me of Romper Room.
Mm.
You remember they had the lady with she had the mirror and it would spin around and she would say goodbye to hi to whatever. And
Absolutely. I remember. Romper Room was a big part of my childhood. Romper Room, polka dot door, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Mike does our laser sales principally in Ontario and some of the maritime provinces. So same thing. If you guys would like to have a laser demo with Mike, or you'd like to learn more about a laser that you've seen in the past, I mean, shoot him an email. Mike is super knowledgeable, both about consumables and about lasers. So reach out anytime. Oh yeah, if you guys haven't seen Mike's videos, Mike has some of the most informative non-van based videos that our YouTube channel, and I mean just on YouTube in general, that you could see. So you want to learn more about lasers and how to laser. Particularly, he did a great series lately on rotaries. And I think you've got another one coming up soon, Mike, where you were talking about doing, I'm trying to think. You said you had a really great video in the pipeline, but I can't remember what it is.
The next one I'm working on right now is testing.
Awesome. Okay.
No.
That's when we get a lot of questions about. Definitely not to be missed.
Yeah.
Last but certainly not least. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, I'm back.
You're back, and you're on a vertical camera, which sounds like some cool contrast, I feel like. That's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
50 morning, so.
Kelly is here as our longtime consumables specialist. If there's anybody here in this panel who knows more about consumables than Kelly, I will be very, very surprised. She's here for all the tough questions that I would have to sort of flub my way through and have to, get back to you guys at a later time. Kelly is my ace in the hole, my secret weapon that I use to answer most of the tough questions that you guys send me. Definitely don't reach out to, or don't hesitate, pardon me, to reach out to Kelly. Don't reach out to Kelly. Reach out to Kelly if you have any questions about consumables. She principally works in Western Canada, but definitely don't. I mean, anybody here on the panel, you ever have a question for us, we're very happy to hear from you, either during the stream here or going forward in the future. Okay, if it's all right with everybody, I am going to kick things off here. I really do quickly want to bring up this first sample that Lev did because it's looking really great. I think that looks like
Dawn.
here to me.
I was going to say it looks like Dawn when we first found him. When we first brought him off.
My psychic powers were first manifesting with my strange.
Yes, we went to the marketing pound, sort of like the dog pound.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there was a lot of strays there. We had to
let loose from universities across Canada.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a veneer in there, Don?
Yep, absolutely. We're actually, veneer is going to be the first thing that we talk about this morning in terms of the different products. I've got a quick slide here I can show you guys. Thank you, Lev. That looks awesome. Lev's going to be doing a bunch of great samples. Yeah, Don the hippie. Thank you. Exactly. I'm much less Baroque now in my hoodie and blazer combo. I've got my slides here. I just want to point out the wouldn't you like to know. I feel like that's really strong. Okay, we're going to quickly run through the 5 kind of major groups of wood products that we carry. Again, feel free to stop us at any time. The 5 kind of big groups are going to be veneered woods, solid woods, the Trotec Eco, which is kind of a really cool special product, the plywood and MDF we've got lumped together, and I can show them to you, and then our cork, which is all kind of Canadian sourced and from a Canadian supplier. We've got some great ROI stuff for you at the end, where you're going to show you a couple of kind of sample applications that you can do, maybe some calculations for how you might price them out, and then a section for Q&A if there's any time left over. So let us kick it off by going to the wrong slide. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is pop over to, okay, our lovely consumables e-store. If you haven't been here before, engraving-supplies.ca, definitely don't miss out. When we launch new products, you're typically going to see them here first. We have some really cool stuff here on the front page. Maybe not to talk about too much today, but just to whet your appetite maybe. We have our hobbyist pack, which has a bunch of different materials that you can try out really easily. We have our new laser leather. Very cool, very cool. But today, our focus is the woods. And I want to start here with the veneered woods. So, Kelly, do you want to give me maybe a really quick rundown on, everybody can see here we have 5 different colors. I'll do a quick zoom in on some of the pictures and different things. I think we have some videos, and obviously you can see the veneered woods working there in the top left camera, but maybe the sort of rundown on, what's cool about the veneered woods, what sort of customers would typically use these?
Sure. The veneered woods, they come in 12 by 24 sheets, or just a little bit smaller than 12 by 24 because they are in European millimeters. So they're not the exact 12 by 24, but they're basically 2 really thin, solid wood with an MDF core. They cut really beautifully. People are using them to do all kinds of different crafts. Yeah. They're basically really beautiful finish on them too. They engrave really well.
They do.
And they stay nice and flat.
Yes.
That's the big thing for people who don't have a vacuum table on their machine. Maybe they have a 300 or a 100 and they're forever having to deal with the magnets or weights. This stuff stays nice and flat.
True. And wood can sometimes be tricky given, once you've unwrapped it from the plastic with the different sort of, levels of humidity and the warping that you might see in certain areas. There are ways to naturally get rid of the warping. We can maybe go into that later on. But if you were to see a piece of veneer from the side, Kelly's exactly right. You would almost see what looks like an Oreo cookie. You'll see like 2, veneered sheets, as she's saying, and then the slab of MDF in the middle. It's slightly cheaper than our solid wood because the solid wood obviously is, solid all the way through. But yeah, there's a great shot of it. I don't know if you can see it there on left screen, but oops. Yes, if we can get that right up close.
Oh, almost.
Yeah. So two very thin sheets you can see on top and bottom there. That one looks like it might be the birch or the maple. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it's hard to see it.
the nice thing I really like about it, as you mentioned, Kelly, is it does really engrave beautifully, and it comes in so many different colors that you can sort of you can not only do arts and crafts and signage and things as you're talking about, like a lot of, I think, gift and sort of promo items. But then you can mix and match it too. We're talking about doing a backsplash in the kitchen here in our Ontario office. And one of the things I suggested is to use different colors of veneered wood and just interchange them. All the different colors of wood I find looks really, really beautiful together. Question from LCD. Okay, I've used your solid woods and veneers. I only wish I had them larger. Any chance of getting larger? That is a very good question. That is one that I actually am pursuing at the moment. I can only speak, I should say, if you're watching from outside of Canada, I can only speak to our Canadian branch, obviously. But we are currently looking at trying to bring it in a bigger size. After we did a stream that you can find on our YouTube channel with James recently, where he did sort of some 3D, well, James, maybe you could describe it better, like the sort of applications that you did on the bigger sort of MDF pieces, the Rhino stream recently.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just cutting, building models, right? So,
Yeah.
it would be nice to have, because you can easily pick up large sheets of MDF or Baltic birch from your local wood supplier, but some of the more exotic woods that we have, they're not readily available. You just can't find them off the shelf somewhere. So. Would be nice to be able to build models in, maple or things like this.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see bigger wood as well.
I think, that's really exciting, Vincent, by the way. Congratulations. That's really cool. I hope you'll tag us on Instagram. I hope we'll get to see some of the work that you put out.
The problem with anything bigger in solid wood is warpage.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's always the biggest issue. MDF isn't as bad, but certainly solid wood. I mean, you start getting bigger, and then you really start to run into some warpage issues. So, yeah, I mean, that's really the big problem. So that's one reason we don't carry it. The other reason too is it's shipping too, right? So
yes,
but certainly warpage is the main reason. So.
And LCD, you make a great point there too about being as close as possible. One thing I would really like, and this is just a personal mission of mine, but if at all possible, I'm going to try and start getting wood from local Canadian forestry projects and things like that as much as possible. Obviously, sustainable woods as well is a big one for just our entire company going forward. We ensure that a lot of our vendors are doing sustainable forestry, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think. As much as possible going forward, I'd like to get Canadian local supplies, not just wood, but I mean, we have an incredible supply of wood here in Canada. And Tomas asked a great question here that I wanted to jump over to. So the veneered woods, the decision was made. So they're still available in a couple different finishes. They have sort of a semi-matte varnish, and they can be, well, okay, so they are sanded smooth, but then they have sort of an oil varnish, a semi-matte varnish that's put over top. Depending on the different color that you'll get, you'll see sort of different levels of gloss or shine on them. I know they made that change last year. As I understand it, it was a change made on the supplier side. So it was something that was changed on the side of the supplier that we purchased from. But as far as I know, maybe I could direct this to Kelly. As far as we know, I mean, there is no change in terms of the performance when it comes to the veneered woods. They still engrave and cut the same. There just might be a very slight difference in the way that the surface looks with the new finish.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I would think probably the complaint is it doesn't look like solid wood. I mean, it sometimes you get a bit of a gloss on it, and it doesn't look like a wood floor or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, as she's saying, if you want to finish it, now you got to take the finish off to refinish it the way you want. And so having it unfinished would probably be more useful for her to, put the kind of finish she wants, a satin or a full gloss or heavy gloss.
Well, and LZD points that out too, is it possible you can get them not finished? So That's a very good question. We could look at doing a custom order for you. Certainly, right now, no. If you're just purchasing, directly from us, they come as they come. We do have certain wood products that aren't finished, but in terms of the veneers and the solid woods, they have a varnish on them, principally to sort of. I assume it's a question of sealing in, some of the moisture, preventing the warping, protection while they're being shipped, that sort of thing. But no, if you want to reach out to us, I mean, you can reach me certainly at my, first name, last name at Trotec or YouTube at troteclaser.ca. We'd be happy to try and set that up for you or to put together a quote for you. That's no problem. Let me see here. Oh, I just also wanted to point this out. Bobby, that's really, really exciting. Again, I'll have to say, I hope you tag us on Instagram. That'd be so cool to see what you guys do with the laser when you get it. Charlotte asks, is the wood with the gloss paintable? I've never actually tried. That's a very good question. Do any of the three of you have any experience trying to paint?
I've only painted whatever I've lasered.
Sorry.
Yeah, true.
But I think we've actually UV printed them, so right on the wood. So I think she might be all right. So you might, I mean, if you're going to paint it, you might want to give it a quick sand just to give it some adhesion ability, and then go that route. But I would say probably it wouldn't be too big of a deal.
Yeah, painting's fine. I don't think staining's going to work that good if there is
No.
an oil finish on it.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of Etsy folk like to stain the wood. That's kind of en vogue right now with the but chalk paint should be fine.
True. And I mean, if you'd like, I don't know if you're in Canada, but certainly reach out to your local Trotec. We'd be happy to send you a small sample of, a piece of veneered wood if you'd like to just do a test piece prior to making a larger order in order that you could just be sure that it's going to work, or you could test a couple different types of paints or colors or that sort of thing for sure. There was one other question here I wanted to pull up. Yes, Stephen or Stefan, forgive me, I'm not sure. Mentions how expensive wood is at the home improvement stores right now, and you are not wrong. I will also mention, I wanted to get into sort of later in the stream here, if we have time, some of the typical issues people run into when laser processing wood, because it certainly is a tricky one to do. I want to show off a couple more of the products first. Maybe I'll swap over to our next type of wood here, but while we're going, James, could you, I mean, you have a background in woodworking. Could you tell me, if somebody is going to go to the hardware store, obviously we wouldn't necessarily advise this, or we advise that you be very careful if you do, what are the things that somebody should be looking out for to make sure that something they're buying is laser safe? Obviously all our wood is laser safe, but if you're going to get something from the hardware store, what are the things you want to keep an eye out for?
I see this a lot. There's a major hardware box store out there that people are buying wood from, and I can see it immediately when somebody shows me a picture of why isn't this cutting. And it's this really soft kind of white pasty looking wood with the brown sort of liney speckles in it. And a lot of people are like, why won't, what's wrong with my laser? Why won't this cut well? Why do I leave scorch marks over everything? And it's because you're using that wood. It's a particular brand of wood that's just, it has so much glue in it, and that's the problem, is that the veneer is really soft, and it's made of some kind of, I don't know, base wood or something, and there's lots of glue, and that glue it burns, and it also sublimates and gums up your filter systems.
Yeah.
And then there's box store MDF. Generally will have a lot of chemicals in it that are nasty to breathe. So if you are cutting that stuff, make sure that it's well off gassed before you put it into the general public. I know that our MDF doesn't have formaldehyde in it. Is it right, guys?
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Good, because I tell people that all the time.
Yeah. It's so glad. Good thing you did this stream today.
I'm learning a lot today.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Just, safety, and then the glue issues. Ours, we wouldn't sell a wood that doesn't cut or engrave well. Like, it just doesn't make sense to us, right? So you buy a product from us, it's tested for this exact application. Whereas you go somewhere else, it's with the price of wood, you're gonna throw half of it away if you're testing.
Yes.
Just come buy the stuff. We've already tested it for you.
Not to mention, you sort of pointed this out. So in the back channel here, I've got Lev going like, make sure you mention that. Filtration for woods is particularly tough. I'm going to defer to Mike because he's the person that I actually first asked about this. Oh, I've got Robot James. There we go. I'm going to pass this to Mike because I remember him being the first person I went to ask this question many years ago when I began at Trotec. If somebody says they're principally going to be doing woods, what sort of recommendations would you make in terms of filtration for them in their showroom, in their workspace, whatever it might be?
Blow it outside. I think that we had a discussion. Don't use a filtered exhaust if you can. Some people have to use a filtered exhaust. It just happens to be that because of the glue in the MDF, it tends to adhere to the side of the bag, which starts to, stop the air from being pulled through, the smoke to be pulled through, and it happens relatively quickly. So what we've suggested to people who have to use the bag, use a filtered system, is to let the bag, plug up, take the bag out, put a new one in, dry, let the old one dry out, and then basically bang it to try to get the old residue to fall off, and then shake it out, and then normally you can get another use out of the bag. But certainly the glue is certainly something that's not easily. It tends to plug up those filters a fair bit. So anytime somebody is they're saying they're running a lot of MDF or acrylic for that matter, then we normally try to suggest that they go outside. Everybody can't go outside. Situations just don't always dictate that. But if the choice is being made, then normally outside is better than into a filter. So
yeah,
I'm seeing a trend recently, at least with my customers, where they're in a residential neighborhood and they have two systems. They have a small, maybe like 1 horsepower fan for blowing wood, and the filter is there to get rid of everything else, so that their neighbors, all the neighbors smell is they're having a little campfire or something. Which in BC, that's it's an everyday thing, and so that way they can keep their acrylic and all the other nasty smelling stuff filtered and away from their neighbors. So that's a really cool way. And then they just swap it out when they're doing wood.
yeah, some people actually will. I've got customers that run Lamicoid material during the day or late at night, when everybody's gone to bed, just for that reason, right?
Yeah.
Keep the wood run during the day or whatever. So
it really is. It's the one thing that, look, working in a business that has a laser showroom, as a major part of our facility here, off-gassing and smelling the different smells that come out of the showroom is kind of like a constant thing. You get used to it, but wood is the sort of one that everybody's always really excited if somebody's doing projects in wood, because it does have that really nice kind of campfire smell.
We get lots of smells in the machines in our showroom because Markin uses them. They don't clean the machines after, so we get a lot of wood smell going.
A lot of wood smell. We like the wood smell. There he goes.
I made 25 minutes and I didn't get
Hey, we have a banjo manufacturer listening here. This is cool. Rickard Banjos.
Rickard they do incredible stuff. I'm not sure if Lev is able to pull up either their Instagram or their YouTube.
I got my banjo right here.
This is a special item too. You brought that up the other day. That belonged to your grandfather?
My grandfather bought it from some old colonel.
Wow. I still think that's a really, really cool story.
Yeah. There. Look at this. A luthier in our midst.
They do incredible stuff. We have wanted, the timing has never wanted to work out for us, but one of these days,
really?
We're going to have the staff from Rickard's on
where are they
one
from?
of our streams. Rickard's is based out of, good question.
Aurora, just north of Toronto.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm going there then.
They have, you have to check out their website. They have an incredible story. I don't want to spoil it. It is unbelievable.
I just did a 4-hour banjo session last night doing some recording. So
really,
my fingers are still sore. Oh, this is great. Well, I'm gonna have to look that up later on.
Don't miss it. And there are plenty of, I have to say, I mean, we're fortunate that we have a lot of very talented customers. I'll divert very quickly, but there are a lot of people in our chat already that I know are talented customers of ours. So I hope you guys will jump in the chat and feel free to ask questions. I know Thomas and Johnny and Amy and a bunch of the other, I mean, LCD, certainly we've seen a lot, HBA engraving, they're all super helpful, and they have incredible stuff that they do online as well. So don't miss out. When it comes to parameters for veneer with a 200-watt laser, that, I mean, boy, most of our veneer is going to be 3 mil, I think. Yeah, I'm going to defer to Kelly on that. I'm thinking it's all 3 millimeter, right? Unless I'm mistaken.
We solid wood is fine.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking the veneer specifically though. It's 3 mil, right?
No, all of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
With a 200-watt laser, you're not gonna struggle.
Well, Bill might be talking about just veneer because he does a lot of inlay and everything like that. So that might be where he's coming from. So I mean, I'm I think the easiest thing to do, Bill, is to basically I always tell people just cut a small rectangle. You know, 200 watts, or you don't want to get too low in the power. Try to stay above, say, 20% if you can, if not higher, and then just adjust your speed so that the speed allows you to use the higher wattage, right? The higher percent of power. Keep your PPI at 1,000, and make sure your air assist is running well. So you're blowing a fair bit of air there. So.
James, just a quick mention that Doug, amongst others, would like to see the music, or would like to hear the music when it's finished. You'll have to share it.
Well, one day I'll send you my SoundCloud.
It won't be James. It won't be James in the van. It'll be James in the recording studio.
Yeah, James with the band, Joe.
Exactly. Yes.
Really quickly, Bobby had a great question, and I want to move on to our next set of woods here. I have more questions for Kelly also. I wanted to just quickly stop in here on Bobby's question. So, Mike, you mentioned that there are multiple. So you were talking about the bag filter, but there are 3, unless I'm mistaken, 3 different layers of filtration in a typical. So the quattro filter, I'm going to refer to because that's the one that we.
Yeah, most of them are 4. Like there's
4. Okay.
There's a cloth filter. There's a HEPA filter. And there's charcoal. The 426 doesn't have the bag, right? So it's only got a pleated filter and a HEPA in the charcoal media. So yeah, I purchased 835. Now I'm upgraded to a full dual system acrylic. Is that you're talking LCD? Oh,
Bobby was asking. LCD mentioned that they'd purchased one and it's worked great.
Worked great. Yeah.
But LCD also mentions that they do acrylic through the quattro and then the wood direct outside for that exact reason, because wood can tend to be really tough on the filter system, as you sort of touched on.
Yeah.
There are really quickly, just to sort of, you said the 626. So there are 2 or 3 different sizes of quattros that we typically recommend, right? Is it 426, 626, and
835?
835, that's the one I always forget, but they're basically just small, medium, like the 3 little bears, basically.
Yeah.
Stephen asked, and this is one I'd like to throw over to Kelly, the thickness of the factory finish. So I assume he's talking about either the lacquer or the veneer that's on the solid wood or the veneered wood. Do we know what the thickness of that is if somebody was wanting to take that off with a sand? I assume it's like .0.
I would think like a 0.008 ish.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact, but it's very thin.
Yeah. If you have any, I was going to say, get a small drum sander just slightly thicker than the finish. So that's actually a great suggestion. So the very little that I've worked with drum sanders in my time. Thank you, Lev. There they are. Exactly. So small, medium, large. And obviously you can find this stuff on our website, troteclaser.com. There's a ton of, incredible material there, more than anyone could ever read about lasers. But
I think to go back on the verathane, urethane, whatever they're using. I mean, normally you want to keep that layer as thin as you can. the reason it's there a lot of times is so it makes it easy to clean the wood with a damp cloth or whatever. You don't want to have something thick there, because then it starts to look silly when you start etching through a thicker piece of clear varathane and on wood. And I've seen this years ago. We used to see a little bit more of this. I've had some guys with urns that used to put on a fair bit of a thicker layer of varathane. But normally what we put on this wood is very, very thin. You don't want to put something on there that's thick, because it affects the engraving. Generates a more noxious fumes that maybe you wouldn't have if you were just doing like the solid wood or something like that. So normally what's on there is very, very thin and can be easily sanded off if need be. So
awesome. I am going to pop up. I'll show you guys really quick here. Moving right along, Les's been doing some great samples for us in our solid woods. The solid woods are essentially, so if I'm not mistaken, Kelly, I mean, this is essentially like the veneers, but just take out the MDF in the middle and replace it with more solid wood, essentially, right?
Yeah, and they don't have a shiny. They're more of a matte finish, so I don't think they have a finish on them. They're really just the plain solid wood.
Yeah. They come in the same colors also as the veneered. So the same 5 colors, the oak, maple, cherry, alder, and now I'm cheating. Oak, maple, cherry, alder.
Cedar.
Thank you. And a surprise 5th one that Lev is showing a great example here of some photo engraving. I want to ask Kelly, this is something.
You're doing it really quick. Wow, Lev, I'm amazed that's a pretty fast laser we got in the showroom. I mean,
it's not called it's not the Speedy 300 or 360. It's the Instant 360.
Yeah, the very speedy. This is part of our ROI presentation later, but I was gonna ask Kelly, I feel like we touched on it a little bit earlier, but is it fair to say that, especially with the popularity of sort of more garage lasers, hobbyist lasers, whatever you like to call them, smaller laser machines lately, that engraving wood has become kind of more popular, I feel like, than just about we've ever seen it. I feel like we've had more interest in our wood products lately than I think I've ever seen since I started.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot more popular in the past 2 years. I think with COVID, like a lot of the crafters have come out of the woodwork.
Nice. Got them.
So we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of wood.
It's kind of nice, because, we have this, I've been in the awards industry, trophy industry since the 70s, early, like 1970. But, we always say that, back then, solid wood it meant something. Like it was furniture. People looked at it. They thought it was, it was high quality,
valuable,
people would pay for it and everything like that. And then we seem to go to that foil finish stuff and everything and paint it and everything. But it's nice to see the solid wood coming back, because I think it's very, it's very exotic. It's very unique. Every wood has its own finish, its own grain in it. You never seem to get one that's the same. So yeah, I'm glad it's come. I'm glad we're selling lots of wood, because I think it means.
Don, can I?
Yeah.
Sorry,
sure.
guys. I just want to quickly mention, if you notice the 2 different depths. So this is also something you could do with the woods. This specific one is a relief, so one is a bit this one is a bit grayer than this one. Can you guys, maybe Mike and James, talk a little bit about what relief is for woods, like the different thicknesses that you could do?
I mean, you create depth using colors. So I mean, it's quite simple. The black is going to be the deepest, and the white is going to be obviously no engraving, and everything in between is somewhere between no engraving and the deepest. So we can't really pick a number, like say 2 millimeters to go down, but You test what your deepest is. Okay, that's good enough. Now you know that every grayscale between not engraved and fully engraved is going to be rendered using a print driver setting called relief mode. It's in everybody's print driver. So, I mean, if you open up your Trotec print driver or Ruby, you'll see relief mode in there somewhere. And you will be able to take a grayscale image, and the black parts are going to engrave deep. The white parts are going to engrave not at all. The tough part is making that art. So if you just want a couple of different levels, okay, well, you set your grays in CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. But if you want something like this, now you need to go to a program like for me, Rhino. Some people use Blender because it's free. Me, I'm a Rhino guy since like 97 or something like that. So I'm always talking Rhino. So, but you can create a 3D object. In fact, you can just take a 3D object from the interwebs and position it how you want, turn it into a height map, which is black is the furthest away, white is the closest, and suddenly you have a bas relief like you're seeing here on the screen.
It's such a beautiful piece. This is one that always stops people when they come in to the showroom. It's one of my very favorites. I mean, it takes time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even with the instant, what was the name of the laser? The
instant 360.
Yeah, the instant 360. It takes some time and a number of passes. But to Mike's point, yeah, I mean, especially with the solid woods, where I mean, as Kelly was describing, the veneer only has that thin layer of solid on top, and then the MDF in the center. You know, with the solid wood, you can, you know, engrave and get those different levels, and you'll have that wood, you know, through and through. I think Mike made a good point. It's almost come from being a traditional back around to being kind of cool and hip again, because fewer people are using it, right? Speaking
you say it takes a long time, but let's try carving it. I'll carve, and you use the laser. Let's see who's done it first.
I'll whittle. We'll have a whittle off.
Whittle off.
It's very done that we actually know what you just said there.
I wanted to pop over here. Speaking of cool and unique woods, I want to sort of speed things up here. I've already talked for too long, but oh yes. So Enchantement also, just really quickly. So about the relief, yeah, keep the type of wood in mind. So some work better than others in terms of the grain and the contrast you get as you go down through the wood. Definitely worth doing a test piece, if at all possible, of like a small section of the engraving or something that you're planning to do, I assume. Really quick to touch on our Trotec Eco. I think this is a really special product. I'll toss over to Kelly again, if you wouldn't mind sort of describing it for us, but it's one of my favorites.
So it reminds me of, you know, in a dresser drawer, the back panel. It's like kind of like a really hard cardboard, but not quite wood.
The particle board, I think there it is.
Yeah, like a metal board kind of. And yeah, it's just really cuts well and engraves well. So making little small chairs like that, or little architectural type of thing, it really works well for that. Because it's like a really hard cardboard.
And entirely
great for schools. A lot of schools will like this because it doesn't have any glue in it.
Yes.
If you have no any toxins or anything like that, that could theoretically get into the kids could breathe or something like that. And just remember too that, you know, some of this stuff will off gas for a little while. So sometimes in those situations, to be a bit careful as to, you know, what's being cut and expelled into the classroom or whatever. So.
Absolutely. So, I mean, just to sort of touch on, Mike's exactly right. Not only is it emission-free and adhesive-free, but it's also fully biodegradable as well. So again, we were talking about, you know, the move for Trotec towards more ecologically sustainable materials. This was one of those first ones that is, you know, easy to work with, I think, as Kelly mentioned, and also, you know, perfect for model making, as you're seeing here in the video and that sort of thing, but also, you know, it's environmentally friendly and, you know, sustainable going forward, which I think is like a really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's something that you should market, because there always is a market there for people that are looking for, something that's eco-friendly. And, you know, whether, you know, I mean, bamboo theoretically, you know, I mean, they used to use bamboo as an eco-friendly type product. And the problem with bamboo, a lot of times, the bamboo is good, but the glue that's, you know, that's in it to hold everything together isn't good. So, you know, you can get bamboo that again is sort of like eco-friendly, where it doesn't have anything bad in it. So certainly, you know, you can market it that way, and some people will pay a premium for it, or, you know, will decide to go that route because, you know, it is something that's from a sustainable type, you know, source.
Absolutely. And this is a really cool project that Josephine did for us a number of months ago. A beautiful puzzle that she made out of our different thicknesses of Eco. They come in a pack of 5, and we have a couple different thicknesses. You can see them again on the website. I'm glancing over here now. We have the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch, and I think there's even one more super thin one. I will double check for you, but yeah, they're a wonderful material to work with, and as you can see, they print beautifully.
My heart's still working good when you put that in my chest.
As long as you put in all the pieces correctly.
For the transplant, yeah, it looks great, man.
Yes, thank you, Lev. We UV printed these and used our the Vision camera system, as you can see there, to make sure. Obviously, when you're making a puzzle, you know, the pieces cutting out exactly is a pretty important aspect of that. Really quickly, I'm only going to touch on these because they're more familiar, so I'm going to fly by them kind of quickly. But MDF, the really great thing I think about our MDF, I mean, you know, everything is super high quality as far as our woods are concerned. Our MDF, I think James touched on this earlier, but when it comes to MDF and then also plywood, I know I saw in the chat, you have to be really careful about purchasing these from a hardware store. They might have, you know, glues in them that, you know, at the very least are possibly going to make it hard to laser cut. At the very worst, are going to be dangerous for you to laser cut. And all of our wood materials are, of course, laser safe and laser optimized. So they're really, really beautiful and easy to use. Finally, just to quickly,
well, the edges clean on them too, Don. I mean, that's what I tell people, you know,
yes,
that if you're not looking, like if you want something that doesn't come up black, then certainly, you know, that this product certainly is suited for that. So, and you're still going to get discoloration on it, right? But you are not to be as black as what you're going to have if you buy it at a box store type scenario, you know, source, right?
That's exactly right. So the cork I wanted to show is the very last one. To our point from before, again, sourced from a Canadian distributor, and completely sustainable, like ecologically and carefully forested. Again, we sell it in larger sheets of different thicknesses. It has a lot of applications that may not immediately occur to you. We're going to show you some cool ones here coming up in a second, but Mike, you make a really great point, and I wanted to come back to this question from LaserTech because it's exactly to that point. So they mentioned that they do 5mm woods with their Rayjet, and that they get flaming. And I was wondering if you had any. So you mentioned, I know we've seen in the videos even some masking to avoid some of the burning and some of the charring on the wood products. Do you have any suggestions maybe for avoiding flaming when it comes to, you know, wood cutting? I know a Rayjet's kind of tricky in that regard.
Well, it's tricky because it doesn't have an air assist source at the point of cutting, right? It's more of a, you know, a sort of a filter, like an airflow that's sort of floating around, right? It's not directed at the point of cutting, so, you know, it doesn't make it easy, you know. But the flaming, if he wants 5mm, I mean, that's pretty thick for that machine.
Watt, yeah.
I would suggest that he go and try to focus more to the middle. Maybe focus instead of at the top of the wood, maybe focus at the middle of the wood. So, you know, maybe drop down a couple of millimeters or something, like bring the table up a little bit closer to the lens. So you're cutting more in the middle. You might try a couple of passes as opposed to one pass. Yeah. You're not going to notice it as much. You know, you would notice it maybe a bit more on acrylic, but on wood, you may not notice it. So you might find that there might be a little less flaming if you're going to go through. And I always tell people, you're really not losing any time. You know, because you're typically going to run twice as fast, right? Because you're only going halfway through the material. So other than the process time of going back to the start and come back out again, it's pretty minimal. So So again, you might want to try something like that. So any of the other machines, you want to use the small nozzle so that you're forcing as much air into that cutting surface to blow the flame out, right? Because cork, I'm sure there's a fair bit of something, it tends to I'm sure there's something holding it together to a certain degree, which then ignites, right? So.
Yep.
Well, even the solid wood, like his, I mean, if you're going slow, it's going to burn. Like picture a candle. If you can put your hand through the candle really fast, you're not going to feel it. There's not going to be no heat buildup on your hand. But because you got 30 watts, you have to go slow. So you're putting your hand slowly over a candle, which means there's going to be heat buildup and you're going to burn your hand. Same thing as wood. If you have to go slow, there's going to be heat buildup on the wood. You get heat buildup, it starts to ignite. So we want to have the wood not igniting, and then that way you're not going to have any burns. And that's why Mike said speed it up and do it in 2 or 3 passes, and your wood won't heat up then.
Mm-hmm. You'll notice on that piece of relief we did, that coaster with the really super detailed relief, there's not really much in the way of burning or charring on that, even though that had lots of passes. But
that was cleaned off though. Like what you normally would have done on that, there would be residue on it.
Yeah.
And if you try to do that in one shot, it doesn't work. It's just too dirty. So you normally do that in maybe 3 or 4 passes. And again, it doesn't take any more time typically. And then that was, I remember Super Dave down in the US. I mean, he has a sandblasting unit that cleans it out. I believe it wasn't Duncan, but somebody cleaned that with a drill and a
Oh,
pad,
it was a Dremel. It was a Dremel with a sponge, with like a sponge head on it. I cleaned it with that. But just also to add, you guys want to make sure to use a white wood, or a light wood, like maple.
Like a maple
obviously, anything that's a little bit darker, you're gonna get really charred.
Well,
yeah.
You clean something?
Goodbye again, Mike. It's been nice having you in that.
Bye, Mike.
And anyone who's looking for tips on this, I have some great ones. I mean, we can't really get into it here, but to clean wood, it's very simple, and you don't really need a lot of mechanical methods. There is a way to clean it using stuff you probably already have around your shop. And so, yeah, I mean, we could probably do a whole other podcast on how to get things clean.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And Michael have Lev watch. I wanted to ask. No, listen, we're on together here. I've got to be on your side a little bit. I'll create drama. I had a question for Kelly. So I love this question from Bobby talking about students wanting to make Microdrone chassis. I don't know how much your experience with Microdrones is, but if somebody came to you and said they wanted to build something using one of our materials that's sort of small and light, would you steer them towards the woods? Would you steer them maybe towards the acrylics? What might you recommend?
So I don't know what that is, but
I will see if I can find a video of one, because I'm not 100% sure.
Don,
yes, sir.
Eco wood might be good for that because it's pretty rigid and it's pretty light, right?
That's kind of what I was hoping.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe the Eco wood might be the best. The problem with acrylic is getting it thin enough, right? So.
Have you ever seen those drones that are like little helicopters with like 4 propellers, Kelly?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Imagine that, but like a homemade version of that, like a little drone that you hold and drive with 4 propellers. But they need to build a chassis for it. And I'm trying to think what of our materials would be light but sturdy.
Yeah, that would probably be the best. The Eco. Yeah.
I agree.
And part of the teachable moment on that one, Bobby, is that we can use the laser to create holes in the chassis to make it sturdy still and lighter. How many holes does it take, before the part becomes less rigid? And now you can start, plotting more holes, less holes, are honeycombs better, are circles better?
That's good. That's good thought there, Jimmy. Because that stuff is pretty. That Eco wood is pretty strong. I mean,
just don't get it wet.
Yeah.
And don't feed it after midnight.
Well, I think you can seal it. I mean, if that's
It's not made of gremlins.
I would just seal it after if it was going to get wet. If you're afraid it's going to get wet, I'd just seal it, right?
Yeah.
So, but
Absolutely.
it's strong stuff. So.
And I think if you're in a situation where your Microdrone is getting wet enough that you're worried about the wood, then you probably got bigger solution or bigger problems, bigger fish to fry at that point. Then.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So really quick, I want to pop over to this. So both Don and Steven asked it. So I'll pop in Johnny's answer here as well about making robot drones out of MDF, plywood, or acrylic. I think it's if you ever found somebody on Instagram who is more likely to show you how to build a cool drone out of laser roll materials, Johnny is definitely your man. I don't want to, no challenges, but I think he'd probably be up to it. Both Don and Steven mentioned this. How do you clean the honeycomb table? That's a really, really great question. We might have to save it for another day, but can you guys give me like a 60-second rundown of your typical go-to if somebody's sunlight soap?
I think we've been using the oven cleaner lately. I think that seems to work pretty good. I mean, Jimmy's he's grimacing a little bit. So
I've witnessed oven cleaner take the entire anodizing off of a 400.
Well.
If you leave it over the weekend.
Overnight.
I'm thinking the Speedy 100 and the Speedy 300. Sorry. Yeah.
Oven cleaner. Mel actually, Mel Jacinto, our fearless sales leader.
Mm-hmm.
He takes it to the car wash with him and puts tire cleaner on it and then sprays it gently, not with the high pressure. That works. I soak mine in a bath of sunlight overnight, and then I rinse it in a shower. I don't take it in the shower.
I wasn't going to ask, but
those waffle marks all
that
down
was my question.
Yeah, I was more worried about Mel like driving through the car wash, like holding the thing out his window. Just
no, not that kind of car wash.
Yeah, getting hit with the the spinning. I wanted to mention here really quickly as well. Where is that question? I lost it. Joey, here it is. Happy Mother's Day card with wood with live hinges. I think Lev has a video that we can show. There is a file you can find on our homepage. If you visit troteclaser.com and you search for Kerf, Kerf Cutting, you'll find a file there that you can download. I think it's just an EPS. So you can use it with, Photoshop, Illustrator, Grell, whatever you're using. And it'll give you a bunch of different patterns. You're going to see one of them here that basically work like an accordion. It's going to allow you to build essentially a couple different kinds of hinges right into a solid piece. And then as long as you design your file carefully, oftentimes with hinges, at least certainly when I'm doing it, it's a little bit of trial and error. So maybe make some smaller pieces first and test out the different hinges, see what's going to work best for you. But it is absolutely something you can do. And I think it's a really, really cool application because oftentimes it's unexpected, right? Making something with hinges, there he is. Making something with hinges out of a laser cut, it was essentially like a flat 2D material into a 3D object, I think is always a really cool application. And especially for Mother's Day, I feel like, your mom always appreciates my mom always liked my macaroni cards. At least that's what she told me. Let's see. Don't laugh. So LCD mentions about the Speedy 400. Okay, I was going to say the SP 4000. If you're cleaning the honeycomb table on an SP 4000, we got to talk. Yeah, I tried the oven cleaner. The grass at the end of my garden never grew up ever since. Yeah, just be careful no matter what you do. Try the sunlight soap. Certainly, that will probably be a little bit more.
I had one customer that would like Jimmy said, but they would soak it in Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
I tend to find that the Mr. Clean tends to clean the wood residue the best. But again, that's you got to pretty well use a whole container to be able to do that. So. But certainly that was one option. But the sunlight is cheap, right? If that works for Jimmy, that might be something that to try. But
the sunlight I use for wood soaked or wood resin soaked grids. It's not going to take your acrylic resin or Trolle's resin or other plasticky stuff. It's just for wood. So yeah, I mean, I had a guy who cut 3.6 million coasters in the span of about 4 years, and he never cleaned his bed once, and so it was like hanging like icicles from the bottom of it.
Oh my gosh.
We ended up soaking it like over the weekend in like probably
Flame.
like a 20% sunlight mix, and after we sprayed it, it came out clean. So I highly recommend it.
I like this this mention also from Roland of room cleaner.
Yeah.
Try different things. Definitely, there are a lot of super helpful forums and places online too where you can get great recommendations. I know Kelly is very vocal and able to answer questions on Facebook groups and stuff from time to time about Trotec and our materials. But as this stream, I think, goes to show, we have a lot of customers who are, I mean, infinitely more knowledgeable than us about, their specific industries and how they go about, secret tips and tricks that we might not have even stumbled across. So,
they use the laser more than we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like me and Mike have been in the industry a very long time, and Kelly, of course, as well. But I mean, our hours on the laser compared to somebody who's been working at it eight hours a day for the last 5 years, our hours on the laser, those people have way more hours on it. So we got to listen to our peers as well.
Absolutely. And I think particularly as it comes to, we were talking with Kelly earlier about, how wood engraving is being used these days. And even James, you mentioned about people selling it on Etsy. I mean, the number of stores popping up on online with incredible, like, handmade, particularly, very intricately engraved wood pieces is unbelievable. So, these people have hours and hours and hours they've poured into their craft. Don't be nervous to reach out. I'm going to run through this really, really fast because I know we're getting to the top of the hour here. I've got two prepared, but I'm just going to do one. I'm not sure which is the first one that I have ready here. Okay, so these, I mentioned applications about the cork. If you've bought one of our lasers here in Canada, it comes with the demo menu. And if you have the demo menu, you're familiar with some of these slides. So this is a coaster that we did with cork. Obviously, coasters can be done using cork as just a base, but these just use cork through and through because they engrave, as you saw Lev doing there in the laser cam, they engrave beautifully, I think. And let me see if I've got... Okay, so for the ROI, we've broken down the job into two potential uses. We've got a speedy 360 size bed here for our example. So we've broken it down on the left side. You'll see calculations if you're just making one coaster. And on the right side, you'll see calculations if you're like James's friend, making 18 coasters or filling your bed up as much as possible. Basically, each coaster is 4x4. So on the right side, you're able to fit 18 coasters in a speedy 360, essentially. If you do one coaster, your engraving cut time is going to be about 4 minutes, 3 minutes 46, you see there. If you do 18, the total time is going to be, just about 28 minutes, but that's only 1:32 per unit because of the way that the laser is optimized to move left to right. It's why you always want to try and have a full bed. Go ahead, Lev.
Oh, no, that's what I was going to ask if James or Mike can explain why it'll be more optimal for a full bed size versus doing one at a time.
Yeah, Don's doing a great job.
Yahoo! last time I did this presentation, Lev popped in to remind me that, hey, can you explain why it's more optimized from left to right? So I thought, like, oh, this time I got it.
I did. That's why I got the microphone ready. But okay, you're good.
Yes. Okay, I remembered. So obviously you're not always going to be in a position where you need to do a full bed size, but as much as possible, maybe it's offering a price deal to your customer if they order in a larger quantity, whatever it is, wherever possible, filling up your full bed is going to be the optimum, the ideal.
Maybe a full sheet size because 12 by 24. So
that's a very good point. Sorry, can you say that again? How big are the sheets of cork? Are they?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, they are. I was thinking I had the wood on my mind, but the cork are a bigger size. Yeah, the cork are kind of a funny, at least for us, they're not a typical
cork are
one
36,
of our
36 by 24.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're like a 3/4 sheet size.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, we're so used to stuff that's 48 by 24 and 12 by 24 that the 36 by 24 is kind of odd. But obviously the cork is really easy to cut down too. So, those who are asking about, do you have materials that fit perfectly to bed sizes, depending on the type of material you want to work with or that suits your application, cork could be a good choice. So this pricing breakdown, and again, these are very general numbers, right? Sourced off of things like Etsy and that sort of thing. But the same breakdown as before. So on the left side is, if you're making one coaster, and the right side is the 18 coasters, the full bed. So up at the top is your cost. So Yes, it's your cost. Exactly. So you have a setup fee of $25 that you're charging, regardless of if you're putting in a full bed of materials or you're doing just, the one. And you're able to charge, $5.95 per coaster. So on the right side, you see it's $82.47. In that case, we've given a quantity break. So we've given the customer 23% off for ordering a potentially like a full bed size. So your revenue is going to be $30.95 on the left and $107.47 for the full bed on the right. Now, if we're looking at, what it's going to cost you, a quarter sheet of material is $4.72 in the cork, divided by 18 there, because obviously you're only using, 1/18 of it. It's going to be 26 cents for the material and $4.72 for the full sheet on the right. If you're paying somebody $15 an hour, so roughly minimum wage, it's 2 minutes of setup time. That's going to cost you about 50 cents. And then again, the engraving cut time, so as we mentioned before, 3 minutes and 46 for the one on the left. It works out to, about $6.50. And on the right, $46.47. So the total cost to you for the individual one is about $7, and the full bed is $51. So as you can see, your gross profit when you get to do a full bed size, it's not, it's almost, it's more than double. Again, understanding that these are general numbers, and the quantity, the quantity break that we gave, the price break that we gave, given that it's a larger quantity, is completely up to you. But, when it comes to pricing materials like this, let these serve as a general guideline, and also as a reminder that, asking for things like a setup fee, asking for, to calculate that opportunity time in your mind is always really important. So I remember James explained opportunity time to me once. I believe it was James who was talking about, you have to calculate the idea that if you're going to do a job for somebody, you're not doing a job for somebody else during that time. So remember that if you're going to take the time to do that job, are you going to take this is an example where it only takes 2 minutes of setup time. But if you're going to spend 2 minutes of setup time plus pay your staff to make one coaster, is that a job, that makes sense for you to take?
You're paying your employees $25 an hour to produce stuff for you, but you're making $150 an hour from that employee, and so when you're calculating the employee's time, you're not calculating it at $25 an hour. That's not how much that employee's worth to you. That's how much you pay them. Sorry, employee, I'm one of them, so I should talk. So when you're doing an ROI for your units, don't charge your cost at $25. Charge it at $150, because that's really that's lost opportunity. That employee could be going and getting you more work or setting up a different job, but instead they're doing this job, and that's how a professional will pull out and the costing for an employee, or for themselves for that matter.
JLH raises a very, very good point, and I think it is
lots of people would pay it.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's surprising, right? And I make sure to mention that, again, if you've ever looked through our demo menu,
the unit price. Yeah, sorry. The unit price is $5.95. If you look at the top left, it's not $30 a coaster. It's $5.95 per coaster.
But
in terms of what we're going to charge for it,
they're still paying.
Well, that's our setup fee. Yeah.
And
oh,
this
that's
is the thing.
right. Yeah.
People don't see the value, I guess, if they're in this, like, oh, it's so easy just to put a coaster on and press go. Of course, this is only going to be worth $5.95. But the person came to you for a custom coaster. If they wanted a regular coaster, they would go and steal it from their local bar. but they're not just buying a coaster. They're buying a custom engraved coaster with their grandmother's face on it. I don't know.
So you can put a glass of beer on it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Don't-
Grandma.
Don't sell yourself short by saying this coaster's worth this. It's worth what it costs to make it, or else you're not going to have enough money to fix your laser or buy a new one when it comes to that the time.
I always tell people, I always say to people, I say, what would you pay for a white mug, a coffee mug? $1.99, right? Now, if you put a picture of grandma and the kids on there, now how much would you pay for it?
Yeah.
$39.95. So now all of a sudden by putting something customized on there, that means something to the person buying it.
It's now worth $40.
$37 for that mug. Exactly. So it's really important that you understand that personalization is why people are coming to you, as Jimmy said, and that's why they're spending the money to buy it. So
absolutely. And I think at the end of the day too, hopefully it's a way for you to say, and like by no means am I a business person necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily know the best way to approach this, but because you're charging them the $25 setup fee, regardless of if they're getting 1 or 50, it allows you to sort of broker potentially the conversation with them to say, hey, would you prefer maybe to buy a bunch? Because either way, you're going to pay the same setup fee, but I can give you a price break on each individual, coaster. Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad you asked the question. And I think the point that James has made before, and maybe, I ought not to bring this up in every stream, but I think it's very hard if you run a small business not to want to be price competitive first and foremost. But keep in mind that, like you said, your work has value, your time has value. You are uniquely creative in the way that you approach something. And if somebody's come to you, it's usually because they've seen your other work and they like what you do. So, you don't want to sort of bring down the perceived value for the entire industry by doing a sort of race to the bottom type thing. I mean, I understand why people do it 1,000,000%. And maybe a race to the bottom isn't a fair turn of phrase, but just to say that, if you're just charging enough to get by, I would anticipate at very least that it's going to take a lot of the fun out of why you create with a laser in the first place.
Yeah, you're going to hate life.
I mean, this is coming from the name tag king of BC as well. James for a long time was the name. He told me that's not my, I think he probably made a name tag that said it given the circumstances.
It was a fun time, but yeah, if your projects aren't interesting to you, then you're going to hate it. Like I was just with a customer who had a hobby brand laser, and they were so proud of how much money they made, when they charged $127 for this thing that they made. And I started to break it down as far as how long it took to make it and how they could only make one a day. But she didn't have a job and she was looking after kids. She made $127. And after we broke it down, she was only bringing home like $26. And it was like, oh, I need to make a lot more of these in order to actually be profitable and to make this interesting. Once we figured out how much she was really making, she needed a faster machine in order to actually create profit, because she was throwing away jobs because she could only make one of these a day because the laser was so darn slow. So once we sped the laser up and she could make 15 of these a day, well, now she's making the kind of money she wanted in the exact same amount of time that she was doing before.
And that's why we say, no matter what stage of your sort of creative process or business process that you're at, we hope you'll reach out. If you want to ask us questions, like that's exactly what we're here for, whether it be, again, Mike or Kelly or James. We really do want to help. Again, talking to one another about things about lasers doesn't really help anybody, if we're honest. Like, we're here to help you guys. So, I hope you'll reach out. It is the top of the hour. I wanted to just really quickly, one last time, put up the contact info for each of you. So if you're in the BC area, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to James. I think this stream, if nothing else, proves the incredible knowledge of these three. And then I'm here. But definitely don't hesitate to reach out to James or to Mike or to Kelly. I mean, they know a ton. We will definitely have to have some kind of a stream, obviously, about cleaning your laser, cleaning your woods, cleaning the different materials. I didn't know there would be that many people interested in learning about cleaning a honeycomb table. It's tough. Maybe we will have to make it a consumable. Maybe it's just once yearly we'll have to do a deal on honeycomb tables. But
well, somebody made one comment, and I'll, because this came up again yesterday, and this comes up a fair bit on the honeycomb table. We don't replace just the honeycomb because on the table, if you notice, it's basically pressed together. The problem is we've done this before in the old days, we would send out a square of honeycomb to the customer to replace it, and by the time they got it, it was flat. So there'd be dents and everything in it. There's no way that we can ever send something to you that's going to be, you're going to get it in perfect condition. And so I know it's expensive, and I know that it's probably not what people want to hear, but it is. That's why we do it, so that when you get your new honeycomb, it's in perfect shape. And as I say to people, if the biggest problem with honeycomb tables is people drop things on them, they get dented and everything like that. So if you're not cutting, you shouldn't be using that honeycomb table. You should be using the solid table. And I'm only talking about the Speedy 100 and the 300, the 360 and the 400. It's a different story, but and the Rayjet too. So anytime that there's that thin honeycomb on there, which is made thin so that it doesn't weigh 400 pounds, so that you're got to be a deadlifter to be able to take it out. So that's why we do that. So
makes sense. I was going to say, yeah, Jeffrey, I'm not super familiar. I know like a very tiny bit about laser dark, but if you'll reach out to me, YouTube at troteclaser.ca, I will figure it out for you, and we will get back to you. I don't know if Mike James, I don't mean to close it on sort of a weird mystery note, but have you guys ever heard of laser dark application spray?
That's the guys in the US, and basically it's a pigment, and I've heard it works pretty good. I've had some people that have used it. It's expensive, but again, there's certain applications where if you're painting, if you want color and wood and everything, it works pretty good. Right?
It brightens up it brightens up the.
Well, it's like a paint. I believe it's like a paint. I mean, it's been a while since I've looked at it. But
it doesn't run. It doesn't run. Yeah, it doesn't run. It sits on the surface. It glues or it bonds itself well to lasered wood, and it makes everything darker.
Yeah. Well,
I see.
Different colors on it too. I believe. If I remember the stuff. The problem is when you paint wood, you always have to be careful because the paint can run through the seams of the wood depending on the grain of the wood.
Sure.
Right? So now people had fancy formulas where they would put wax in there, and that the wax would seal it up, and then they would paint it and everything like that. But the laser dark was was definitely something that was designed to make your life a lot easier if you were painting wood.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, on that note, again, if there's anything that you guys would like to see us do a stream on in the future, we are always open. I hope you'll leave a comment either on, under this video on YouTube, or again, shoot us an email, youtube@troteclaser.ca. We're always monitoring it. I thank you guys very, very much. Not only Kelly, James, and Mike, but, obviously everybody in the chat for joining us today. We're going to be back next Friday. I haven't the foggiest clue right now what we're going to be doing, but I know it's going to be great. We have a very talented team here, obviously, and
And before we go, just one thing: if you haven't donated to my Ride for Cancer, feel free to drop $25 or $50 my way, and appreciate that, so I can hit my goal.
Yep, you can find a video on our YouTube channel explaining all about it. What Mike's doing is really, really cool, and definitely if it's something that you're able to do, I think it's a really, really good cause. And we're offering a special, incentive. So I mean, you'll have to check out the video and see what it is. Thanks again to the three of you and to everybody watching. We will see you guys again next week.
Thank you.
Bye,
everybody.